and welcome to the Healthy Half Hour podcast. We are your hosts, Richard and Karen Inslee.
The Healthy Half Hour podcast is your resource for all things healthy, and we will be discussing how to make nutrition, fitness and lifestyle choices work for you.
We will be sharing our own personal insights along with research gathered from working in the health and fitness industry for the past 10 years.
Our show is brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, which can be found at 7dayshred.com, and please feel free to visit our podcast website, which can be found at healthyhalfhourpodcast.com.
And now on to today's show.
Hi everybody, it's that time of the week again. Well,
What time of the week's that time of the
Well, it
week?
depends on when you're listening to us.
That was my thought.
Yeah, you might be listening to us on a different day
Planet.
every time.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
No.
Oh, you never know who picks this stuff up.
Yeah. No, aliens are more sensible than the ones to come and live here. So what have we been doing? Obviously, it's still cold. Apparently,
Unseasonably.
unseasonably cold for November. And what have we been doing? Obviously, if you're not listening to this straight away, then this is going to be a bit outdated, but it's actually Remembrance Weekend. I say that because as a school board trustee, I get invited to represent the school division at our local schools, and we did the Remembrance Day service on Friday. We do have another one tomorrow, which is obviously Monday the 11th, but I was invited to go to the Oakbank Elementary School, and I just have to say that the kids were absolutely adorable. They did an amazing job. They was playing instruments, singing, reciting information relating to the war and the soldiers. And it was a really, really good day. So it's actually nice to be a part of it. So that's about the most exciting thing, I think, that we've...
Yeah, it's winter time, batting the hatches down and gardening's done and bees are done. And like we said last time, that's pretty much inside jobs now. So
and exciting because we're going to pick up half a cord of logs tomorrow so that we can start building some fires over the winter.
yeah, it's always nice to sit in front of the fire in the house.
So what are we talking about today?
We had a question off Tia a little while ago. Sorry about the delay
Hi, Tia.
delay in responding. And she said, would you be able to touch on being underweight, how it can affect your health, how to gain weight and things to do and avoid, etc. Normally we talk about overweight, losing weight and everything else, but there is the other side of the coin where people are actually underweight. And to be underweight from a medical point of view, it's normally under a BMI of 18.5. But take that with a pinch of whatever you need.
And like I say, people just assume that everybody is looking for weight loss help, but it's just good when we get questions like this because, we've had clients before who've you're working with one client right now, and how much muscle has he gained this last year?
About in 18 months, he was like 149, 150 pounds, and he... currently about 187 now, so about 35.
Yeah, 35 pounds of, lean muscle mass, and his goals were different, but obviously Tia's are different as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different moving parts with being underweight as there are with being overweight, and there's many different reasons why you may be underweight. It could be purely just be genetic. You may be super highly active. It could be an illness, thyroid or something like that. It could be due to medications or even something like an eating disorder. So again, there's a lot of different moving parts. So we're going to try and strip each one down as much as we can and kind of go through them all in the next kind of 30 minutes. So obviously genetics, if you're genetically predisposed to be kind of lean and that your parents or grandparents were naturally lean, then you might be in under that radar. Just because you're lean, you may just be lean through a subcutaneous fat or lack of, and you may have a lot of interstitial fat. So it really does matter, again, what you're eating. Again, people who tend to be underweight, oh, I can eat anything and not put weight on. But from a health point of view, yeah, that's not necessarily the case.
And subcutaneous fat is obviously the fat that's under the skin, the stuff that makes especially us females, look like orange peel, that cellulite we all hate. And obviously then you referred to the interstitial, like visceral fat that surrounds our organs. And when you mentioned about people who are naturally skinny, for want of a better word, and like you say, they feel that they can eat anything and not gain weight, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And you used to work with a girl that was naturally skinny, and she just would eat all sorts of like junk food. She says like, oh, it doesn't really matter because I don't gain any weight. So she would have the full fat sugary lattes from Starbucks and burgers and basically eat whatever she wanted. And she already had one little girl, and then she got pregnant again, and she snapped back straight away after the first baby and almost looked like the day after, or it seemed like it, that she snapped back to her original weight. And then during her second pregnancy, she was actually diagnosed with pre-diabetes because she didn't really change her eating habits, because she had that mentality of like, oh, well, I can eat whatever I want. I'm just going to snap back after the birth of my baby. But she was diagnosed with pre-diabetes. So she wasn't only risking her own health, but risking the potential health of her baby. So I say that, like you said originally, like genetics could be a factor, but it's not necessarily, something that gives you a carte blanche for doing whatever you want with your diet.
Oh no, and like type 2 diabetes isn't just for overweight people. I mean, if you just happen to burn the calories and your metabolism is very high, you can still get it, because again, you're still overtaxing the pancreas and overtaxing that insulin level. And yeah, you can be type 2 diabetic as much as the next person, even though you're a kind of underweight. And again, I had a client recently. It was an online client, and she had got an eating disorder of sorts. But when it comes to the highly active thing, she was working out 7 days a week. She really wanted some six-pack abs, and she was actually doing an hour of burpees a day.
I struggle to get people to do like 10 burpees, and she was doing an hour.
Which again was, yeah, I mean, we had discussions, and a line was drawn under that pretty quickly, because again, her goal was she was already skinny, but the goal was to kind of get some abs. And literally, I mean, she was down to near the 100-pound mark, which is next to nothing for her size, because she was like 5'4". So, I mean, yeah, she was just virtually skin and bone, but she couldn't see it. All she was after was this six-pack abs. Again, like we spoke about in the last one, kind of the Instagram model look. And yeah, it was ruining her health. And
I don't laugh at the what she was like doing, because obviously she does, like you said, have like borderline eating disorder and emotional issues. But I'm just like finding it amusing that like someone can do an hour of burpees, but you can't get other people to
It's an unusual exercise to choose, I must admit, for fat burning, because people will tend to choose every other exercise under the sun aside from that. But that was her exercise of choice, and yeah, she had you could see her abs through her skin. But the thing is, she had no ab development, so really you just saw skin on just basic ab muscles, what you'd normally have, with very little development in there. So no, we worked hard with her for about 4 months, and we've turned the corner, and her weight's going up now, and she stopped the burpees, and now she does more yoga than working out, and hopefully she's going to kind of sets her on the right track for health in her later years. So an interesting client, and hopefully she's still doing really great. Last time I spoke to her, she was. So again, sometimes it can be illness, sometimes it can be medications, like I say, thyroid issues. And again, if you've got an overactive thyroid, like Graves' disease or something, then the tendency is you're going to feel a little jittery, but you are going to knock through calories like they're going out of fashion. And again, that's one of those things you really should be under the medical supervision of your doctor, healthcare provider, and kind of get that under control as quick as you can, because that doesn't lead to good things happening long term. And like Karen just said, I mean, with eating disorders, yes. And I mean, that's like we said with orthorexia a couple of podcasts ago. It's something you need to talk to a professional about, really, because it can just spiral out of control, and that those problems that can come with being underweight, just to list them off, I mean, bone health, osteoporosis is one of them, anemia, so kind of low iron, a very weak immune system, again, because you're just purely low energy. For the ladies, amenorrhea, so you're not going through your cycle as normal. Hair loss, which again, that tends to be tied in with the thyroid again, just being tired, because again, your metabolism's really going hard. So there's a lot of different health concerns you can kind of suffer with. So again, just if you are or you think you're suffering with that, just get your healthcare provider. One of the things again with, like Tia was asking, was how can you actually gain weight? Now, believe it or not, one of the easiest ways to gain weight is to use liquid calories. Why? Because liquid calories kind of circumvent the digestive process. Because again, a lot of anything that's liquid has already been kind of half digested. Half the digestive process is already done because you're not chewing. Your stomach has a lot less work to do. It's a lot less satiating, and you can add those calories into your system a lot quicker. So again, if you're just naturally underweight and you're kind of not suffering with any of the other things, then look at a liquid calorie diet. And I mean, or I should have say, add more liquid calories to your diet.
Are you thinking things like those? I mean, because like people are listening now going like, oh, I'll just go and buy some of those muscle milks and...
Yeah, sure, go for that. I'm just kidding.
Because there's a lot of, like you say, you go to some of the bodybuilding like supplement places and they have a lot of these things, but then they're not necessarily good for everybody.
Oh no, there's a lot of fillers and a lot of garbage in that. And again, the client you were talking about earlier on that put the 35 pound of muscle on, we were working out and he was dropping 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day. And at least 1,500 to 2,000 of his calories came from weight gainer drinks that he was making. And I mean, one way to make those weight gainer drinks even more potent is make them out of milk. Use milk instead of water, because again, you're getting the fat out of the milk. And there's an old bodybuilding protocol that they used to use years ago called GOMAD, which is gallon of milk a day. And yeah, I mean, if you wanted to get big and bulky, the guys used to drink, or the girls used to drink a gallon of milk a day.
And buy a cow.
What, probably cheaper. And again, there's a lot of calories. And if you look at a small cow that's just been born and then a cow 6 months later, it grows from a small cow to a big cow very quickly. And I mean, it's just drinking milk. So I mean, if what works for the cow will work for us. And
unfortunately, it's impossible here. I don't know where else worldwide, but you can't buy milk direct from the farmer. You can't buy raw milk, which would be, if you wanted to gain weight using the milk, then it'd be the perfect way. But so, using 1%, 2% milk, it's not...
It's not without its flaws,
yeah,
no. Processed milk is what it is. And again, animal husbandry from dairies and things is something that kind of comes into that conversation too. But again, it's an easy way. And with bodybuilders too, there's certainly ways of doing it. So there's something called dirty bulking and clean bulking. I think you can pretty much guess what dirty bulking is, which is just going through McDonald's drive-through 10 times a day and just eating as many calories as you can, but don't really care about what the calorie content is coming from. And there's clean bulking, which obviously will be whole foods that you're preparing yourself and cooking yourself. So, and again, steak, chicken, broccoli, vegetables, all the usual bodybuilding things, cottage cheese, things like that. So, again, there's different ways of doing it, but depends on what your goal is, depends on how much time you've got. But certainly if you're looking to gain weight, then if you're not allergic to dairy is a good way of doing it, again, through cottage cheese and liquid calories. And yeah, just really, you've just got to eat more than what's going out.
And like you said, the dirty bulking and clean bulking, I mean, it just made me think about that movie that was a few years ago, Super Size Me, and that guy that did just eat McDonald's like 3 times a day, but he he was lean and fit and healthy beforehand. And then, I don't know, it's a long time since I've seen the movie, but I believe from memory that the metabolic and medical conditions that he developed after that 30 days was like ridiculous. And like, I think from memory, like borderline, the doctor was like, you're going to die if we don't like fix this, because like you say, they're just eating more. But eating, like you say, Tia was asking, like, how do I do this the healthy way? And what are the things to avoid? And obviously dirty bulking, like, occasionally can be okay. But
well, yeah, just like say fast food every now and again, but not like 4 or 5 times a day, just trying to slam the calories in as you can. And again, one thing to avoid is if you are trying to gain weight is like, are you doing an hour of burpees? Or like marathon training. So anything that's kind of long endurance training, because that's really just going to burn body fat off like it's going out of fashion. So I would choose shorter workouts for 15 minutes, HIIT workouts, go at sprints on the treadmill for 15 minutes. Again, just to get your heart working. And then from a strength point of view, just kind of lift heavy weights, because really that's going to be the best workouts for you, because you're going to end up putting muscle tissue on. Still working the heart, so again, still from that elevated heart rate, but none of the slow, steady cardio, which most people associate with kind of weight loss. So it's almost kind of doing, if you look at the internet, there's a ton of different things on this, but it's almost like doing polar opposites of what you were going to say to lose weight.
And also when you're saying about like lifting weights, again, it's, like working with like a fitness professional, like a personal trainer like yourself, whether it's online or in person, and tweaking to get the nutrition to match the physical activities you're doing, because it's always a good thing if you want to gain weight, to gain the weight by putting on lean muscle mass, and build lean tissue. But you've got to fuel those activities, but not to the point where you're still eating too much, like that you gain like the wrong, like too much weight, or the wrong, like, not wrong weight, but, make sure that you maximize the nutrition to the activities that you're doing.
Yeah, and again, watching what you're eating. Again, not sending your blood lipids off at the deep end with high cholesterol or high triglycerides. And one thing with eating is try to eat little and often. And again, replacing maybe some meals with liquid calories, or having a liquid calorie snack, because again, a lot of times people who are quite small don't tend to have a huge appetite. So the last thing you want to do is kind of force feed yourself, but it may be, you may be not that hungry, but maybe just having something just to kind of keep that calorie input going. And like I say, it's kind of polar opposites to losing weight.
And when it comes to liquid calories, it doesn't necessarily have to be one of those muscle milks or something that you buy in a packet. You could actually do it yourself. So, I mean, things like sweet potatoes and... I'm trying to think of like other stuff.
Butternut squash.
Butternut squash, that's it. Like I'm like visualizing the ones in the garage thinking, we're having those for supper later. It's like if you actually sat down in front of a plate of like butternut squash and sweet potato, you probably would struggle to eat as much of it compared to if you actually pureed it with some cream, some butter, some seasoning, and actually made it into a soup. So again, getting like those liquid calories in you, making the food yourself, using whole foods, like just pureeing, like even leftovers, because like, I mean, I'll do it, won't I? Like quite often is, you've got meat and vegetables left over, and I'll blitz it down and make soups out of it rather than just like have a reheated meal. So again, there's simple ways to take in liquid calories, but it doesn't have to be at the expense of something bought powdered in a shop.
Yeah, and like I say, sometimes convenience is what convenience is, and those things can help. So again, really, it's just a lot of common sense with when it comes to those sort of foods. And again, look at your health as opposed to just to gaining weight. And like Karen says, you want to gain the right weight by eating the right food. So as we've always said with anything, just make sure your protein is around 30% of your diet, and then carbs and fats as you need them. Don't drop your protein down thinking you're going to have like a super high fat diet because you want to put weight on because it's calorically dense. But a higher fat diet will certainly help because, again, it's more calories for less volume.
And also when it comes to gaining weight and thinking, oh, I'll increase my fat intake because, like you said, it's calorie dense. But unfortunately, there's that other side to it where, like, high fat diets are very satiating. So a lot of the times you might not gain as much weight as you want increasing your healthy fats because they're going to satiate you more. So some people actually end up eating less. So sometimes it's maybe, like I said, about making some of those liquid calories from leftover foods, and if you do make a homemade soup from leftovers from your supper meal or lunch meal from the previous day, throw an avocado in there, throw some
roast beef and avocado
into the soup. You won't taste it, but it'll be a liquid calories for you, but it will.
Well, like you said, with butternut squash or sweet potato soup, a little bit of butter in there, a little bit of cream in there, again, just adds those fat calories and can just push that bar up a little bit. And as we've said with everything, I mean, everybody's different. So what works for you to put weight on may not work for your friend or a relative or somebody else you'll know. So again, just you've got a little bit of experiment. Hopefully, we were some help. And we just waffled on again. Like you said, I'm a waffler last time.
Well, no, but I mean, I think it's as well like working with a professional, tweaking with things, because sometimes people don't know quite where to start, and sitting down with somebody just for a consult, just saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. And it might actually not involve much tweaking. And we always say that, like, common sense isn't that common anymore. But sometimes, like, when we get new inquiries regarding whether it's like fitness instruction or nutrition, and we ask for food diaries, sometimes that's all it takes is for somebody to write things down, and it's almost like that light bulb goes off and they look at their food diary and go, oh, okay, like this makes sense now. But sometimes it could be, sit down with a professional just for an hour and just throw a few things backwards and forwards, because like you say, you want to do it in a healthy way. So whether it's losing weight or gaining weight, just talk to somebody else about it and tweak. If you are completely lost, just don't try and do it on your own.
No, but so again, first stage is basically how much are you eating? So maybe just write your food down, weigh your food, track your calories for a couple of days just to see what things are. You may be just under eating. And like I say, if you can find on the internet what your basal metabolic rate is, your BMR, and have a look what your BMR is, and have a look what you're putting in. And I mean, if what you're putting in is just below or around the BMR, you may need to jack it up a few hundred calories to try and get some results. And if you are going to increase your caloric intake every day, don't do it like 1,000 calories and see how it goes, because you won't last very long. You need to do it in small increments. So probably 50 or 100 calories a day for a few days, and then increase it again another 50 or 100 calories after another few days, and just increase it slowly, and hopefully things will turn around. I've said hopefully about 93 times, but hopefully this was worthwhile, and we'll be back with another podcast soon. See you then.
That's all we have time for right now, but we do hope that you join us for our next show. And if you want to contribute to an upcoming show by suggesting a topic that you would like us to discuss in more detail, then hop over to our website, healthyhalfhourpodcast.com, subscribe to our podcast and submit your suggestions. The Healthy Half Hour Podcast was brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, and don't forget to share our details with your friends and review our show. Until next time, thanks for listening.